All right, so before we begin our presentation today, we have a cool little video of a spinach growing that we'd like to share with you. Welcome to the 5 Points Garden presentation. We are the Garden Gurus, and my name is Kaylee Miller.
My name is NaRayah Runyon.
I'm Blackman.
And I'm Joshua Troub.
Today we're going to begin by talking about the soil in your garden. Next will be the irrigation system. Then we have the plants, and lastly the costs.
So going back from our feedback from our previous midpoint meeting, we went ahead and redrew our garden design for you in order to utilize the entire space at least as much as possible. And so the new dimensions for the area that we're going to be using are going to be 70 feet long by 40 feet across. And so in this area here that we have, we are going to be, again, composting this entire area that's within that garden range so that you're able to grow there. A reminder of the alluvial soil that you work with, good soil texturing. We'll have to still till that, and we'll get to that in just a moment. And then adding that compost to it to have that nutrition that you're going to need for your plants because it's such a young soil. We changed the calculations a little bit for the compost, so instead of 3 inches of compost, you're going to have 2 inches of deep of compost. And we did that mainly to bring the cost down just a little bit since we are doing such a large area. And we felt that we had done the 3 inches, especially because we were making the garden beds before, and we wanted to build that up. But we think that in this area, the 2 inches should be sufficient for your needs. And so we went ahead and calculated the amount of soil that you need based on that. So going into this new design that we have here for you a little bit, you'll notice we have made the rows vertical, running east to west rather than north to south. And that's so that if you do decide that any of the wastewater you want to use from the sink or any of the other irrigation areas that you might have, if you have a buildup and it runs off, that water is going to run along your garden. If the rows were north to south, you'd have a greater chance of that running off your property into your neighbor's yard, which wouldn't be a problem necessarily for them, but it would mean less water, less nutrients being washed away from your garden. Again, when you get to monsoon rains, that's not even irrigation that you're adding. That's just going to be a lot of water coming through, and then having the rows in this direction is going to help keep that water, that moisture, that nutrients from your compost all on your land. So to zoom in on this view just a little bit, so this is that top corner where you can see a little of the trees, your shed here, and so the rows themselves are going to be 2 feet apart, and that's sufficient growth, sufficient room for your plants to grow. And then with those 3 areas that we showed, those walkways are going to be 4 feet apart. There's 10 feet between each of the trees, and then 10 feet from the trees to the edge of the fence line there to make sure you don't have the roots interfering with your neighbor's property. And so here we're showing the area where the compost is going to be, right in here, and those are your walkway areas. And so and then you'll notice that we have in the corner that area where your rocks were, and we've left that as a future potential compost site in case you want to invest in that in the future. So that's our main layout for the garden. We went through and did further research into the compost, and the feedback that we got from the managers at Tank's Green Stuff was that you do come in and they will load the compost for you. However, that $34 per cubic foot is the price even when you're buying it bulk and bringing your own vehicle in. So that is the set price. However, they had said that this was a very competitive price, and based on the research we had done looking at other places, this was the most inexpensive quality option for your organic compost that you wanted. And so you bring your truck in and they will load everything for you. All you have to do is transport it, but that is the price. And so we're going on, now that you have your compost, the way that you would apply it, you would need some sort of rototiller. And so one of the options that we look into here, that was the most cost-effective one, this is through Home Depot, which we have sort of sites here for in Tucson, and was the cheapest option available for this quality equipment. So this is a 5 horsepower rototiller, which according to the experts that I consulted, our suggestion is that you rent it for the whole day. You would likely be able to do it in 4 hours, but you'd have to be working non-stop, and that's very intensive. So the best option there would be to have it for the day and be able to spread that out.
All right, next we're going to talk about your irrigation system for your garden. All right, so we're continuing with the drip irrigation. Attach a stick to that PVC and process the fruits and vegetables right there in your garden. This PVC will then connect to a mainline tubing that will run down each side of the row, it's the black line you see there. And then off of that mainline tubing, you will have micro drip line, and that's these dark blue lines you see. Those are going to run about halfway down each row from each side. And the reason that we did that is so that you could maintain water pressure throughout your garden and maximize the efficiency of your water system. And so you can see up here the drip line is running as close to the trees as possible. The reason we did that is so that you can attach emitters to that drip line. This will allow you to water the trees with much more water than you would these plants over here, since they have a higher water need. So the materials that you would need for this irrigation system. With our research, we found that the kit that we talked about last time is no longer viable with the increase in size. So we sourced these items from Home Depot. You're still going to need the PVC materials to run the water from the house to the garden area. Next you have the 1/2-inch tubing, and that's the main line that you have. And then the 1/4-inch drip line will run down each row. 2 gallon per hour emitters are for the trees. And this is something you might have to change out later as the trees grow and the water needs increase. And then also in our calculations and plans, we included an adapter, a timer, a pressure regulator, and a bunch of small parts that are going to be needed in your irrigation system. So before you begin any tilling or installation of your irrigation system, you're going to need to blue stake your area. So blue staking is marking any of the underground facilities at your garden area. So that is like the electric lines, gas lines, water, anything like that. The reason you would want to do this is to prevent any damage from the digging. And it's actually a state law to do this before you begin. So we're going to provide the number for the blue stake site in our final report. And it's no cost to you, it's free to do, so go ahead and do that.
Okay, here's a slide where we get to eat food. So in addition to the plants that we already went over that we're going to be using for your restaurant at the midpoint presentation, we decided to increase the quantity of those, obviously, since we increased the scale of the garden area. But we also talked about improving the variety and the number of citrus that we're using in the garden. This does 3 things. Number 1, it provides shade for the plants that need more shade. Number 2, it will attract pollinators because citrus has a very strong sweet smell to help attract bugs. And then 3rd, it'll provide another source of food. So these are the varieties of citrus that I researched and thought would work best for the restaurant, for your restaurant, and also very different varieties that you can't just go find elsewhere. So it would be specific to your restaurant. Not everyone else has these. The first one is the Minial Tangelo, and this is the one that I was not able to find a sample for because they're not in season right now. But those ones are very, very juicy, and talking to the experts at Mesquite Valley Growers who I cooperated with, he said that was his favorite citrus, and I would suggest once those do come out, try it. Those are delicious. I'm sorry I do not have samples for those. What I do have samples for are the Meyer lemons, the Milo kumquats, the lime plots, and then the Moro blood orange. To start off with, we have the Meyer lemon, which is not illegal in Arizona, like we thought of before, but we researched it completely here. If you want to try a slice, they're in the middle. Those are the Meyer lemons. They are very juicy, and they have a little bit of a tang to them that you don't find in all other lemons. They grow very well in Arizona. The Maiwa kumquat. They're sour. Another one is the Maiwa kumquat. Careful, kumquats can be a little bit sour as well. These are one of the sweeter rinded kumquats. So when you bite into those, they may still seem a little bit sour, but they do have a sweetness to it. Those are the 3 small orange ones. There we go. And those are also very prolific. Probably in the whole citrus family, kumquat produces the most citrus year-round. Which also leads us to the lime quat, which is similar to a kumquat, but it has more of a key lime taste to it. Those are the yellow citrus. You can eat those peel and all. Very specific to your restaurant. The lime quat would be. They have a very different taste. Careful, those ones are sour too. And then the last one we have is the Moro blood orange. Of all the blood oranges, the Moro blood orange has the darkest red and would look the best on a salad or in a drink. They also have a very juicy juiciness to them and a very rich flavor. Those are the citrus that we decided to add to the garden. We're going to put those along the back row, as I'll show in my next slide. First we're going to go over the manual. So with the plant manual, we created this to go along with all the plants in your garden. The purpose, we're providing a one-stop database for all of your employees so they know how to treat each plant from planting, growing, all the way through harvest. So as you can see, it contains our plant type, the provider, planting information, everything you need to know about each plant and variety that we're giving you. The next slide, I have an example. These are the cherry tomatoes that we're planning to grow. Up in the left-hand corner, we have the variety, which is the Texas wild cherry. Along with the provider, we've been using native seeds and rare seeds, which are specific for this area. Everything that you buy from native seeds or rare seeds grows well in the Tucson area. We have the seed packets, how much they cost. So you know, when you look at it, you'll be able to see this is how much we've been spending on these tomatoes. Maybe they've gone up in price, and we should look into a different variety or provider. We've also got the planting season. Everything you need to know about planting is in this next row. How far you need to plant them, how far they need to go in the ground. Also, we have the sun requirement, everything you need to know to grow. Do you need to thin? And then also, you have your harvesting methods. How long is it going to take to bear fruit is very important to know. And then also some general information about soil. Does it need a more acidic soil? Most plants do, and we need to range in about 5.5 to 6.5 in acidity. And then also, another one that's usually included in the general information section is the temperature that they grow at best. All of them, for the most part, are hot weather plants, except for the turnips and the beets, which you would need to plant in the coldest weather as possible in Tucson. Now here's the garden layout. So, like I mentioned before, we have the citrus growing along the back. These would provide shade for the herbs, which are the vegetables in the garden. So placing those closer to the trees works out perfect. Also, next to the herbs, we have the tomatoes, and all the rest of the nightshades are right here, which are your Sinhuiza chilies, and also your habanero peppers. Nightshades benefit the most from growing close to the herbs because they are companion plants. They just help produce better soil in that area. They also attract the pollinators that are specific for tomatoes specifically. That's why we're putting the tomatoes closest. So I think as the restaurant, keeping that in mind and knowing that you still will have to purchase food, especially with the size of the garden, is another thing to keep in mind.
Can I assume that the trees, I'm sorry, are like the top of that is facing south? Like if I had a compass?
Yes. So this top row up here, that is the south side where the trees are, and they're specifically placed there to provide the most shade.
The citrus, is it one tree for each of these or multiple trees?
Multiple trees.
Multiple trees.
Multiple trees, yes.